the secret to building a thriving business and a fulfilling life wasn't just hustling harder, but about creating a home where love, legacy, and livelihood all come together. In this episode, you'll discover how one visionary turned senior care into a family-centered mission that uplifts not just residents, but also caregivers, employees, and our own children. The story might just change the way you think about aging, community, and what it really means to build a life you love. Welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life health transformational coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs being the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible. If you're ready to start attracting premium clients without chasing algorithms or hunting people down like a banshee on a mission, head over to thecoachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. It's the first step in building a business where your clients seek you out. Today, we are chatting with Melissa Hunt. Melissa is the founder of Elder Care Solutions Group and the owner of a luxury private care home that blends dignity, comfort, and community. A passionate advocate for seniors, she has mentored dozens of caregivers in building family-based care homes and sustainable businesses. Melissa lives her mission alongside her husband and 3 children who are an integral part of the warm, welcoming environment she has created. Welcome to the show, Melissa. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Jill. I'm so honored to be here with you today.
So tell us, what's the most significant thing in your opinion as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
Well, I think for me, in my experience, the more authentically me I become, the more I find that I'm able to attract and create the kind of circle that supports me in moving forward in my mission and also opens doors for me to support other people in living their authentic lives and really moving forward in their mission as well. And I would say that personal development has been a huge part of me just pulling back all of the layers of the stuff that I've accumulated over the years that were keeping me from that for so many years.
Does it feel like you're like finally opening the closet and rummaging around and you find yourself, you're the thing stuck in the way back in the
Oh my
dark?
gosh. Yes. And it's like finally also feeling safe enough to be who I was made to be, feeling like I didn't have to hide anymore, and really remembering what it's like to feel that authentic me. Because and for me personally, I didn't realize how much I was living in fear, scared, and self-protection, and that just felt like it was normal for me. And being able to release some of that and create a space where who I was beautiful and attractive to other people was so validating for me. Um, and and also opened my eyes to really being able to validate other people where they were at too, and they couldn't maybe see it for themselves. And it's just such a beautiful win-win.
It is a lovely space. And
Yeah.
as more people embrace this idea of just being their authentic selves and not having to like put on the mask and pretend that there's something that they're not, it just makes it so much easier for everybody around.
It does. It really does. It's very freeing, very liberating.
So let's talk a little bit about how you're redefining senior care and how did you get started in this?
Well, so it was 2020, and I had been challenged to create some finance. I really thought I was a trophy wife and I didn't need to make money. And I just kind of rested on, I was on the farm and homeschooling my children, just really enjoying the life that I had created. And I was challenged, and I ended up taking a job with a senior couple. Now, I didn't really have any grandparent relationships to speak of, so this was a new feeling for me. I said yes, and I discovered that I really loved caring for them. It very much felt like back when my kids were little, it was help with walking, help with talking, help with feeding them healthy meals, keeping high knees clean. It was all the same things that I did for my babies. It's just that we were looking at 140 pounds worth of human being, not 20. But it was something that I felt like I had been made to do my whole life. And then the COVID started spreading through the country, and what I got to see was this huge amount of fear spreading, especially in the senior communities, where we had already kind of started looking at facilities. Now everybody was getting to see what a mess our facilities were in. And I looked at that and I thought, I don't want this for myself. When it's my turn for care, this is not where I want to be stuck. And if you talk to pretty much anybody, they'll tell you, I don't want to go in a facility. That I want to be home as long as I possibly can be. I want to be surrounded by my family. And it's not always a possibility for, like, say, my family isn't able to take care of me when the time comes. Sometimes that's just pragmatically, that's just where we are in life. Um, but I knew if it weren't my family, I just want a family. Like, I want a real home and a real family. That's what I want. And so being willing to build that for myself and then share it with the people that were in my community, I honestly wasn't sure it was going to work. My biggest fear was that I was the only one who wanted this and nobody was going to come in. And I talk a lot about Margie, who is my very first resident. And her family was really just as scared as I was because they'd put her in a facility and she went in walking and talking and smiling, and they watched her decline really steadily
Oh,
in
yeah.
really horrific ways. And their hearts were broken, and they brought her to me thinking she's only got about 4 weeks left. She is so declined right now. And when Margie came to my home, I wasn't a professional. I just knew I was going to love on her and I was going to take care of her the way that I would want to be taken care of. And Margie came back to life and she started eating and she started talking and she started smiling and she started walking around my home, and she thrived and lived joyfully with us for 2 more years. And
Oh, that's
just that
amazing.
amount of comeback that we saw happen in her.
Mhm.
I tell people I'm not a miracle worker. If somebody is in a true decline where their disease is taking them, I can't
Mhm.
stop that. But if the decline is happening because of neglect, that's never going to happen in my home. And, Margie was on a puree diet, which she had lost all of her teeth because of the falls that she had experienced in the facility. So she can't risk choking. So they take all of the food, which isn't great to begin with. They stick it in a blender with water and they make it into a kind of soup, and then it's too thin, so they thicken it up with a thickener, and it's just completely unappetizing. And I started thinking to myself, could I imagine that being my last meal? I mean, people on death row get better meals than that. Why are we taking our most vulnerable population and feeding them sludge instead of feeding them the kind of food that really could be their very last meal? It might as well be good.
Mhm.
So, like, one of my favorite stories with Margie is she sat in my kitchen as I was cleaning up one night, and I just served her the little last bit of banana pudding, and she took that spoon and stuck it in her mouth, and she pulled it out and she went, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have to get a job here." And just like that level of complete heaven and bliss that she was living in at my home, it took so little effort from me, just loving on her and feeding her good food. And she laughed every day, and she was so authentically her that her family got to enjoy her for 2 years, and it was such a gift to them, and it made my life better every day as well. And I think the thing to that I want to convey is that it really doesn't take that much effort when you're living a good life to share a good life with the people around you. That's what we're all after.
Yeah. I my father-in-law lived with us for 18 years
Mm, yeah.
in our home around our kids, and my husband was gone all the time. So And he didn't have any teeth either.
Yeah.
He did get dentures, but he lost his bottom denture somewhere. He's always losing stuff. So the the whole, yeah, the whole idea of having to eat the sludge stuff, it was just like that's horrible. And he did at one point go into an independent living facility for a while because honestly, he just got to the point where he's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but he found a house and he moved into a house on his own. And my husband had retired at that point, so even before he retired, he was going up to see his dad. He saw more of his dad in the last few years of his dad's life than he did in the whole time that he lived with us. But
Mm.
having an older person in your family, I think it would be better if they're not related to you. And not everybody fits in every situation, but having space, if you have the space for it, to allow them to have their own private space, but being part of a family and being able to do stuff, that's just like, it's magical.
It is. It's so healthy on so many levels that I don't think we've actually learned how to measure. And I at Stanford University actually did a study where they studied childcare and senior care, putting them under the same roof,
Mhm.
and both generations thrive when you do things like that, combining the stability of the seniors with the fun living life giving energy of the little ones. And, even studies done in homes where there are grandparents present in the homes, we have healthier relationships for the whole family.
Mhm.
My children have been doing this since they were 9, 11, and 12. And, age appropriate tasks for them have been like setting the table and making sure the napkins are folded and sitting on the couch with them and watching shows and talking. And now they love to cook. So they're predominantly the ones who I have little chefs in my home now, but they have learned to step up and be in contribution. Just it's part of who they get to be every day in life. And that really, I think, in this time where we're really struggling with how do we teach our kids responsibility when we're not allowed to do this or that or the other things that how we were taught. Like, it's just part of the lifestyle with them, and they have so much empathy. And in my opinion, they have really one of the healthiest realizations around end of life
Yep.
that most teenagers can have, because they see it happens and it happens on a regular basis rather than being sheltered from it or being told that there has to be trauma attached to it every time it happens.
The constant medicalization of everything that is a normal process in life. It's like when you're born, it's a medical process. And then as women, our whole lives, it's a series of medical processes where we have to have medical intervention because, we're not little men. And and then death is like this thing to be feared rather than a natural process. We're all going to get there. But when you have an old person in your home, and you mentioned you lived on a farm, you live on a farm. I lived on a homestead. So I think part of that is raising kids around animals. I homeschooled my kids too, and having them have farm chores. From a very early age, they had responsibilities. I had a goat dairy. And so there were things that my husband was gone all the time. The boys had to help me with the hay. They learned to drive, driving trucks where we went to get our hay because the guy that we get our trucks or our hay from, it was still in the field and we needed hay. So one was learning to drive and the other was helping me throw the bales on the truck. It's just like there's so many experiences that you get to have when you are around older people and have younger people all together. It's just like it was
Yeah.
I admire what you're doing, and I think it's just like such an amazing thing. And I've seen firsthand how well it works for both sides, the older person and the kids.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily, by any means, make things easy. because we're healthy human beings are meant to have emotions. We're meant to feel sad when we miss people. But I think a lot of times when we hear the word grief, we assume that it's sadness or anger or something. And grief can happen. It's such a robust, in it's a robust experience. It can be celebratory and it
Mhm.
can be joyful, and the memories can come and they could bring you, just all of these great, beautiful feelings. And then, you're awash the next minute in, I'll never see that again, or I'll never get to experience it with that person again. And there are so many things, so many different flavors of grief. And they also don't always happen at different times. Sometimes they all happen at the same time. And really, I think really healthy grief
Mhm.
does encompass all of those things. And it looks different for everybody. But that doesn't necessarily, like I said, make it an easy thing to deal with. It is, though, I think a lot more simple than we're willing to let it be a lot of times. I know from my experience, I have overcomplicated things a lot in my life, and learning how to just really think about what truly matters right now can help simplify things very easily. You talked about how we medicalize things. Um, and I'll pull back one of my farm stories too. The first time we had a leak on the farm, it was, of course, on a Friday night, which meant I was going to pay double if I called out a plumber. But I
Yeah.
climbed under the house and we turned off the water. And I thought, I wonder if I could just figure out what's going on here. And there was one half of the pipe where it was dripping down, the water was coming out, and the other half was here. And I think I can just pretty easily put that together. Now, I've never done any plumbing before in my life. And I realized we've handed over our power to the professionals have to handle it. Whether it's medical, whether it's plumbing, whatever it is. I started thinking about some of the plumbers I've known in my life, and I'm a heck of a lot smarter than some of them are. Why do I think that I'm not valid as somebody who can handle that task? And I think the same thoughts came up for me when Margie's family asked me, we know you're going to love her, but how are you going to take care of her? Because this is what the professionals have brought us, and you're not a professional. It's like, this is a great question. And I'm not a professional, but where else am I like choosing to undervalue myself because I don't have this professional label that I get? And what if I could do just as good a job or maybe better because I'm not a professional? Like that was a huge mindset shift for me. And it's led me to, I think, striding forward more in my authenticity, but also in the boldness to say, hey, look, I don't necessarily have the certificates to say that this is right, but I know in my soul that this woman needs to eat real food, you know, things like that that really have allowed people to come back and really enjoy their lives.
So do you do handle like more than one person at a time, or is it more like you just how does that look?
I have so in the state of Texas,
Mhm.
licensing starts at 4. And I made a choice to stay unlicensed because I found that I could actually create and give better care when I didn't necessarily have to follow the rule book. Um, and it's not because I don't follow rules, it's because I understand why the rules are in place, and I want to give the families the option whether they want to choose in or choose out. Um, but we chose to stay unlicensed, and every state is actually different where that threshold is. So I want to just be real clear, wherever you are in the world, you get to actually know where that line is. We keep 3 or fewer residents in our home. What that allows is for me to provide really, I call it concierge care. Really, whatever they want, that's what we're going to aim for, and that's what they're going to get. It's also, I say it's a lot like having toddler triplets. They are gonna, interact well with each other. There's gonna be nap time, and every once in a while, there's gonna be 15 minutes where all 3 of them have pooped and they all need me, and it gets kind of hairy for a little while. but I can handle three on my own. If I never had an employee, it's not too much for me. Um, Having smaller numbers, smaller ratios like that, I think is one of the biggest reasons why we're able to provide better care than you're going to find in a lot of the facilities. And also really drives home that family. You know, these people are not just another number. They are people who their families are becoming my families every day. They're in my home. We share cups of coffee together. We're putting their favorite meals on the table as often as they ask for them, at least once a week. It's really, it's not at all, it doesn't feel at all like a facility.
Mhm. They're just moving in with you,
Yeah,
becoming part of your family.
absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have help or is it all on you?
Yeah, I choose to have employees, and really it depends on what my residence looks like. Sometimes I have people who have sundowners, and I get to have overnight employees. Right now, I'm doing a little bit more speaking and coaching, so I have somebody who comes in regularly during the week so that I can step away and support other people. And it's everything that I do is a get to. None of it is a have to, which is really, I think it's very empowering for me to be the one who's driving that.
When you look for help, do you look at the kids in high school and just out of high school that are looking to become nurses and those that kind of
Yeah,
help, or are
I'm
you
absolutely open to
Mhm,
youth. Absolutely. And if I can get them before they go through any kinds of medical trainings, even better, because it's a lot of times it's getting to break through what I think some of my favorite people have never had any medical experience at all
mhm,
when they came to work in my home. And some of the people I've struggled the most with are people who are nurses, and because they know the right way to do it, and they've had it drilled into them to disconnect because you don't want to get too close.
mhm,
And that, in my opinion, that just doesn't work for a care-based business to not care. So yeah, if I can get somebody who really just loves people, they have the heart, all of the rest of the skills can be trained, they can be
mhm.
learned. Really, the best requirement is you get to love people.
I I can see the potential for these young people moving into the care themselves, being a facility and being able to do this with others because it's kind of like a mentoring situation, even though you're paying them, but
Yeah,
there's you you get to learn some skills as well as having a job. But
yeah.
sometimes, you know, you can have a job or you can have something where you get to go every day and have a wonderful experience and be compensated for it. I really
Yeah.
like that model much better.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've had both. I've had my first student was a CNA who worked for 26 years, and she was in the facilities and they were telling her they didn't pay to have lotion rubbed in their legs. You need to move on. You know, stop wiping their mouth after every bite, move on. You don't have time for this. And truly she didn't, because it was two people to 17 if her co-worker showed up that day. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Right. So there was this time crunch, and she didn't feel like she had that. And she loved working in my home to the point where she realized, oh my gosh, Melissa's living the life of my dreams. I want to do this. And she
Yeah.
became my first student, and she opens her home, 20 minutes down the road from me. And I talk a lot about people ask me, well, aren't you worried about them becoming competition? Like competition, it happens at the bottom of the mountain. We're climbing the mountain, we're collaborating. My home has no problem staying full. And when I have a waiting list, I send them to Michelle, or I send them to Rini, who's 3 miles down the road, or I send them to other places where I would would be comfortable receiving care. And you talked a little bit about, your father-in-law pushing your buttons. I had this conversation with my husband early on. My dad will not live in my home. That's a boundary that would not be a good idea for me or for him. But that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve to have amazing care. And fortunately, I have somebody who has a home open 5 minutes from where he lives now. So when it comes time for my dad to need care, there's a good place with a beautiful soul who will do amazing things for him that I couldn't because I'm the daughter, right? Because he can push
Mhm.
my buttons. Like that's the kind of world that I want to build, is that even if I know my limitations prevent me from being the best person for this job, somebody else will be. And allowing
That's beautiful.
beautiful individuals to stand in their own purpose and their own power, and empowering them to run successful businesses and see their value and how amazing they are. There's no losing in that, you know? There is no competition.
Yeah, and we're all going to get there someday. We need more people because the other system is so broken. It's so expensive and it's so gross. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's just like it is really a gross system. It, it's probably just me, but I look at the whole medical community as it's so broken that
Yeah.
we have to look at different models for how we're doing things. And there's just so many people right now. It's more crucial than it has ever been in the history of the at least the United States in terms of population because there was such a huge number of baby boomers that were this big bubble going through this hose. And when we were little, companies grew big. Gerber grew to the giant that it was because of the baby boomers. And
Yeah.
all the way along the marketing journey of through our life, we've we've had companies come along and help us, but we've overwhelmed the medical community and we've overwhelmed the care facilities. There's just not enough of them. And the quality is so poor because they can't keep them staffed because the it's I know people who work in these facilities and they
Yeah.
love human beings. I mean, they're
Right.
they're amazing, amazing people in and of themselves, but they just are like so overworked. You're
Yeah.
talking about two people with 17 individuals. These individuals are in these facilities because they can't live independently.
Yeah.
And they're like little kids. It's like having two babysitters and 17 2.5-year-olds. They're able to walk, but they're not really able to recognize what danger is anymore.
Yeah.
And they can't feed themselves and they can't clean themselves. It's just it
Yeah. And I think to me, one of the biggest indicators of how broken our system is when the people who are working in it are the first ones to say, I would never put my mom in one of these places. I would
oh
never
yeah.
put myself in one of these places. Like the people who are in there daily, they know. And we don't actually get the opportunity to know until we are forced with an experience of getting to be in them as well. And I think there's a stark contrast between, if you think about, if you've ever had to go and visit somebody, not live there, just go visit somebody, do you
Mhm.
want to stay? Probably not. You want to get out of there as quick as you can. Whereas when somebody comes into my house to visit anybody who's living with me, I hear it a lot. Can I move in? Can I get on your waiting list? Like they want to be there and, curl up. And I've had people come take a nap. I have a closet where I have toothbrushes and pajamas and things for people who want to stay, because especially in those last moments, those last days, you don't know how long you have. And I'm going to make room for you to create as many beautiful memories as you possibly can. That kind of thing, you don't see that in any of the facilities. It's not
No.
allowed a lot of times. They don't allow sleepovers. They don't allow, um, especially during COVID, one person could come in and the rest got to stay outside and look through the window. And like that right there really was the impetus for me starting my business. Was the very first picture that I saw of the window visit broke my heart, because I knew if this was my last day on this planet, you can't tell me that I can't touch the people I love. one more time. Uh, it's we've legislated the humanity out of a very human process. And my passion, my calling, my war, whatever you want to call it, is to bring us back in touch with each other with those last couple of minutes or days or hours in mind, because that's when they really matter, when they're the last.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's, I think, where I am on the warpath to bring people to a realization is it's not just about your mama who you don't know how long she has left. If we don't do something to change this, it's going to be me in there, and I'm not okay with this. It's going to be you in there, and we got to build something better before we're looking for that solution. And if we do it
Yeah,
now,
because
then
it's not getting any better.
no.
If the systems were working and they were getting better and being refined, that would be one thing, but they're not.
Yeah.
And it's like the more we legislate things, the worse they tend to get. And then then money gets sucked out of systems that really should be reinvested into the system to make it thrive better. And when you're inviting people into your home, yes, there's certain costs involved in it, but there's also economies of scale. Three more human beings to feed meals to isn't isn't exponentially bigger, and you're already feeding your family. Old people don't eat that much,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, you just get to a point where, you've kind of eaten all that you're going to eat, and then they want the good stuff because they're at the
Yeah.
end of their life, and good for them.
Ice cream every night or banana pudding and just really good food. And you're right, it's not a lot of it. And it's it's almost nothing compared to what my I have three teenagers right now, two teenage boys and a teenage daughter. And there are days when like it feels like really all I got to do is feed us five, but there's more, just a little bit more to spread to, the people who are eating or not eating. And our bodies are naturally programmed to take in exactly what we need and no more. And I know that's there's some education that goes along with the process of starting the transition and shutting down and passing on. And I think there's also being willing to talk to the family from a space of, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not going to use words that you don't understand to try to confuse you or make you. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on. I can explain to you about, how the body is processing energy just for digestion and breathing at this point, but uh, that's not that's not really helpful, right? It's what people want to hear is like, I'm not going to let her starve. I'm going to keep her comfortable. And there's going to come a time when she's just not going to want to eat anymore. And that's her body's natural way of telling you that she's ready. That that kind of talk is so much more value than what we call medical ease, right? Because we're talking to each other on a human level.
And we don't learn these things in school. And most people never learn them when they're growing up. I remember when my mom passed, and my dad, I mean, she was in the hospital, and she'd been in and out. My mom was sick for like 20 years. It was a very long, slow process of her dying because of the medical community, mainly. And I had a conversation with him where it was just like, Dad, she is dying. It's a process. It's not like you see on television where, one day you're sick and the next day you're dead. It's like giving birth. You see on TV, oh, my water broke and 10 seconds later they have a baby. No,
Yeah.
you're giving birth from the time of conception all the way to the time that baby has shown up and a bit after, because you're not done yet.
Yes.
But we don't know that. I mean, it
Right.
was kind of a shock to me that, the baby came and I thought it was done, but you're not done then. Well, the first one I had. Anyway, after that, I was clued in. But,
Yeah.
your body if you allow your body to go through the processes to actually give birth, like we do with animals, we don't give animals epidurals. And we don't give them, pain medication. They We used to know how to do these things, but somewhere along the line, somebody said, well, you shouldn't suffer like that. You should suffer a different way.
Right. Yeah.
And instead of letting women who pass the information on one after the other, they they just decided to medicalize it. And I'm going to bring this around to the other end, which is death. What you're doing is you're showing people how to become, in essence, death doulas, but it's not in a really negative sort of way. It's just that you're allowing people to understand the process that we're all going to go through. Hey, don't be surprised when X, Y, and Z happens, because probably nobody told you this was going to happen and you've never experienced before in your life, because we are not allowed to be around older people as they're transitioning through the
Yeah.
end process.
Yeah. And I bring it back to the movie with Brad Pitt, Benjamin Button. Like
Mhm.
I loved that movie so much. And I've gotten to use that as an opportunity to tell people who, may be feeling a lot of sadness around this is not my wife. This is not the person I recognized anymore. And to bring it back to, well, do you remember when your babies were growing up and they went from crawling to walking? I mean, there's a little bit of melancholy around she's not crawling anymore, but it's just a different stage. And they go from not being able to talk to being able to babble to being able to actually use sentences. They're not different people, they're just at different stages. And our bodies tend to lose the skills in the same manner that we gained them. So it really is almost a return to infancy. And if you can see through your own expectations of what should be and be in what is, then you can garner a whole appreciation for where this person is in their stage of development, um, and love them where they're at, which I think is really, to me, the end goal.
Mhm.
One of the reasons that I love when families bring me somebody who has dementia and they tell me she's just not the person she used to be. That's okay. I don't need to know who she used to be to love her for who she is right now and to enjoy her smiles when she gives them to me every day. And to that, it's almost like not knowing the fullness of who they were allows me the permission to really pour into who they are right now. And it's a better service, I think, when I can support families and also being able to appreciate it's just a stage.
I just love everything that you're doing. I think it's so important. Um, so how does it look to have you train somebody to do this? In terms of coaching them, I know that you do some speaking engagements and you're just trying to get the message out and
Yeah. So one of the things that I hear a lot is I didn't know something like this was possible. And I think we've been trained to again look for the professionals, right? And when people walk into my home, it's a home in a neighborhood. It's not a part of an HOA, thank goodness. And it doesn't mean it can't be done in an HOA, but what I do is I coach people through kind of pulling back all those layers of things, the things that we've told ourselves need to happen in order to step into senior care. And there are a couple of people, a couple of different categories of people who come to me. There are either people who have heard baby boomers are going to need this care, so make $1 million in assisted living. I mean, you can. And if you're the kind of person who wants to stand up a building and let somebody else run it, you're going to create the same kind of care that people are trying to escape from. So I want to show those people a different way. And a lot of times they're looking at it and saying, oh, this makes a lot of sense. The other people are people who have always loved people and they've never known that they can go from making $15 an hour to making $15,000 a month, right? Those are the people who have the heart for senior care. And like all of those people will come to me and I'll work with anybody. Like, here's where we start. We're going to start with making sure you're solid in why you want to do this. And I have a digital course and I have a coaching program and I put on webinars so that people can really just gain an awareness for what's possible. And I'll give you links so that people can find this, but it's coaching both kind of through the course and one-on-one and group coaching opportunities where I want to support you in really figuring out how you can do it simply, but also legitimately. My husband and I co-coach. He is my rules and regs. He's my tax guy. Like, he will tell you the difference between an S corp and an LLC, and make sure that it's not just like the lady who runs the daycare out of her backyard. Like, these are legitimate businesses,
Mhm.
um, and it's run in such a way that it's not clouded or muddied by rules and regulations and policies and procedures. Do we have all those? Yeah, but they're not posted on the wall by my door. They're just, at the end of the day, it's the golden rule. We treat people the way we want to be treated. And, kind of like we talked about at the beginning, sometimes we got to peel back all the stuff, all the fear, all of the what if I mess it up? What if I don't know the right answers? To get to just simply the heart of loving each other. And so that's a lot of what my coaching is about.
So the dignity, bringing dignity back to life
Yeah.
eh, for everybody. I mean, it's like for the caregiver as well as the clients. It's like how can we live in community and really give to each other? Because I know that old people, when they come to live with you, you're never the same again.
Yeah.
It changes who you are too.
It gave me an opportunity to really confront my mortality, right?
Uh-huh.
And know that if I'm not leveraging today for as much as I can, make a change on this planet for a positive today, I may not have tomorrow.
Mhm.
And I know we all talk about it, but having it in your home as a constant reminder really can drive you forward to create more greatness and more better. It's such a motivator. And also provides so much opportunity to just create more love.
So if somebody wants to get involved in this, what should they do?
I would invite you to reach out to me in my community. I've got communities on Facebook, on eldercaresolutionsgroup.com, um, and start finding your tribe. Like, I am locking arms with people who want to make a true change. And so this is a great place where you can find some community. If you have community in your circle where you are in your town, also reach out to them, because we want to have as much support as possible so that we can start doing things like affecting legislation and policy so that we can become a true option that in my vision, I see one in every neighborhood. Like, in every neighborhood, we have a place where there's just a mom who's taking care of her kids and some of the seniors in her community, and it's just normal. And
Mhm.
yeah, find that person or be that person. And if you want more information on how to be that person, reach out. I'd be so happy to have a conversation with you. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So they can find you at eldercaresolutionsgroup.com, correct?
Yes.
And you do offer that miracle banana pudding recipe.
Yes. Yeah, so good. So if you want to come work for me, or you want to taste banana pudding that would make you want to come work for me, that's going to be available to you as well.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Melissa. This is an amazing conversation. You're doing really incredible work.
Thank you, Jill. It was such an honor to be here and to speak with you and to get to know you a little bit. And I am so glad that you are out really spreading the word with people who can be the change in the world that they want to see.
I love that. To learn more about Melissa and to find the miracle banana pudding recipe, and to learn more about creating one of these, to opening your home to seniors in your community, be sure to visit eldercaresolutionsgroup.com, and we'll be sure and put those links in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in today to the U World Order Showcase podcast. If you're ready to amplify your voice, monetize your mission, and start attracting premium clients, your next step is simple. Head to thecoachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. Be sure to join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.